From our Toronto studios, this is the Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. Assalamu alaikum. I am Catherine Bullock. Our top story tonight. Dr. Afia Siddiqui, a Pakistani neuroscientist imprisoned in the US for over a decade, has met her younger sister, Fawzia Siddiqui, after 20 years. She was granted a visa by the US Embassy in Pakistan. Dr. Afia Siddiqui is serving a sentence in a maximum security prison in Texas after being charged with shooting at a US soldier. She was arrested in 2003 and sentenced to 86 years in prison in 2010. Her sister was neither allowed to hug her or show her pictures of her children. Pakistani Senator Mushtaq Ahmed Khan accompanied Dr. Fawzia Siddiqui and her attorney Clive Stafford Smith as per his tweet. Senator Bernie Sanders has announced plans to hold rallies in 3 states to demand an increase in the minimum wage. Sanders and Labor leaders are calling for an increase to $17 per hour. Although several states have set higher minimum wages, the federal rate has remained at $7.25 an hour since 2009. Sanders chairs the Senate Health, Education, Labor and Pensions Committee. Sanders and Bishop William Barber II will hold an initial rally Thursday in Durham, North Carolina. They will be joined by Durham County Democratic Commissioner Nida Alam. A poll conducted in early May found Americans believe they need to earn $26.20 an hour to have a decent quality of life. Earlier in 2021, the Republican-controlled House and Senate blocked a measure to raise wages to $15 an hour. Researchers and industry leaders have called for the establishment of a global mechanism to regulate artificial intelligence. In a letter signed by experts, including CEOs of leading cyber companies, they propose creating a regulatory body modeled on the International Atomic Energy Agency. They said this new agency should have the authority to inspect systems, require audits, and verify compliance. The body should also have the authority to impose restrictions on use and assess the level of security. The letter's signatories include Google DeepMind, OpenAI, and Anthropic. They said mitigating the task of extinction from AI should be a global priority. They compared the risks posed by AI to those of pandemics and nuclear wars. The debt ceiling deal reached by US lawmakers will affect millions of students nationwide. The bill prohibits the Secretary of Education from extending the repayment break for students who took out loans to pay for their studies. The average rate for federal student loans is about $400 per month. Congress could vote on the measure this week. Debt relief advocates said it will have a catastrophic financial impact on more than 50 million people. The worst thing for borrowers would be a sudden restart of payments. Natalia Abrams, president and founder of the Student Debt Crisis Center, said the proposed legislation sends a discouraging message. She said efforts to help borrowers will be scaled back. The US government has imposed sanctions on 13 companies in China and 4 in Mexico. The Treasury and State Departments allege these companies are linked to the production of fentanyl. The synthetic opioid has been increasingly linked to overdose deaths in the US. The Treasury Department said the companies are directly involved in selling equipment to manufacture counterfeit pills. Companies include Chinese pill press manufacturers Yuli Technology Development and Mexico's Mex Packing Solutions, which is controlled by the Sinaloa cartel and sells pill presses. Saudi Arabia's Makkah Route initiative expands to Turkey. Story comes with details after the break. Stay tuned, and we will be right back after these messages. Welcome back. Turkish Hajj pilgrims will complete entry and other procedures at Istanbul airport this year. Saudi Arabia extended this convenience to Turkey on Tuesday. Saudi General Directorate of Passports Director General Suleiman bin Abdulaziz Al Yahya said all formalities would be completed in Istanbul. When pilgrims board the plane, they will complete their journey as if they were on a domestic flight. The facilitation is part of the Makkah Route Initiative, which began in 2019 as part of the Guests of God service program. Ali Urbas, chairman of Turkey's top religious authority, Diyanet, said Turkish pilgrims will perform important tasks such as fingerprinting and passport control at Istanbul airport. Once the pilgrims arrive at the Saudi airport, they will directly get into their cars and drive to their hotels. They will not have to wait at the airports to fulfill immigration requirements. Bangladeshi Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina is calling on the Muslim world to invest more in science and technology. Speaking at the 35th convocation of the Islamic Technical College on Tuesday, she urged Muslim nations to develop strong entrepreneurship in the fields of science. She said Muslims are lagging even though they were once leaders in science, technology, literature, and culture. Hasina urged wealthy Muslims to use their resources for the development of science and modern technology. The chief of the Australian Defence Force has been questioned by parliamentarians on the issue of stripping military honours from some soldiers. The soldiers had served in Afghanistan and were implicated in alleged war crimes. In 2020, at least 39 Australian soldiers were accused of unlawfully killing Afghan civilians or prisoners. One senator on Tuesday asked General Angus Campbell to surrender his own medal. Senator Malcolm Roberts called on the general to resign because the individuals who are to be stripped of their medals were under his command. A report commissioned by Australian Defence Force Inspector General Paul Brereton found credible information about the killing of civilians and prisoners by Australian soldiers in Afghanistan. According to UN estimates, nearly 100,000 Afghan civilians died after former US President George W. Bush invaded Afghanistan in October 2001. A senior United Nations official has warned Rohingya refugees camping in Bangladesh are at risk of becoming the new Palestinians. UN Special Rapporteur on Extreme Poverty and Human Rights, Olivier de Schutter, told The Guardian he feared the Rohingya were caught in a protracted and increasingly neglected crisis. He said the crisis has fallen under the radar and urged more international attention. Otherwise, the Rohingya could become the new Palestinians in 10 years, he said. After visiting a refugee camp in the Bangladeshi town of Cox's Bazar, he said conditions were terrible. He said he had rarely encountered people in such a state of despair. De Schutter said that the refugees were isolated from the local community and living in squalid and cramped shelters. He said the worst thing is that the Rohingya are forced to depend on humanitarian aid as they are not allowed to work. De Schutter told The Guardian the Bangladeshi government's fear that allowing the Rohingya to work would encourage them to stay in the country is unfounded. He said if they are allowed to work, they will pay taxes and create employment opportunities for others. Dubai, a city known for luxury shopping, will soon become a hub for the halal food trade. The International Islamic Food Processors Association has moved its global headquarters from Astana in Kazakhstan to the United Arab Emirates. IFPA is an affiliate of the International Organization for Islamic Food Safety. The organization was launched in December 2020 by the founding members of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation. IOFS Director General Yerlan A. Baudelet said Dubai is a trade center and his organization wants to support the market within the OIC. He said while the Muslim population is growing worldwide, the global halal food market is still dominated by non-OIC countries. More than 25% of the world's consumers come from OIC countries. They spent about 15% of the $8 trillion on food in 2021. Israeli Justice Minister Yariv Levin says Jews are not ready to live with Arabs in Israel. According to the Middle East Eye, the Israeli minister said on Sunday the purchase of homes by Arabs was causing Jews to leave the areas. He told Israel's public broadcaster Kan, the Supreme Court needs judges who understand why Jewish Israelis do not want to live with Arabs. Levine is one of the main architects of plans to overhaul the judiciary, greater political control over it. His remarks were in favour of moving forward with the controversial reforms. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was forced to halt his plans after mass protests and an international outcry. NATO has deployed additional troops to Kosovo after peacekeepers were injured in clashes with Serb protesters. The alliance's Secretary-General Jens Stoltenberg told reporters that 30 peacekeepers had been injured in clashes with the Serbs. In a tweet on Tuesday, Allied Force Command Naples said NATO said it was sending operational reserve forces to Kosovo. Admiral Stuart B. Munch said the deployment will ensure peacekeepers have the necessary capabilities to maintain security following the UN Security Council mandate. The conflict in Kosovo erupted in 1998 when ethnic Albanians rebelled against Serbian rule following the genocide of Bosnian Muslims perpetrated by the Serbs. Serbia responded with a brutal crackdown, killing some 13,000 people, mostly ethnic Albanians. NATO military intervention in 1999 eventually forced Serbia to withdraw from the area. Kosovo declared its independence in 2008, which Serbia has refused to recognise. More than 90% of the population in Kosovo is ethnic Albanian. However, Serbs in the north of the country are calling for the creation of a federation of autonomous municipalities in their territory. Dr. Arun Gandhi passed away earlier this month on May 2nd, 2023. He was a grandson of Mohandas Gandhi, the father of India. In his memory, watch a special report by Muslim Network TV.
Dr. Arun Gandhi was a direct descendant of Mohandas Gandhi, known as the father of India. I had the privilege of interviewing him earlier this year on January 30th, coinciding with the 75th anniversary of his grandfather's murder. Despite needing oxygen support, his words were both audible and articulate. Dr. Arun Gandhi passed away May 3rd, 2023. As the presiding chair of the Parliament of the World's Religions, I felt honored when Dr. Arun Gandhi accepted my invitation to serve on our Board of Trustees. Dr. Gandhi was an individual of strong principles. He was firm but polite. He was an advocate of Palestine. He even stated that the Palestinians' plight is significantly more severe than the blacks in apartheid South Africa. The University of Rochester forced him to resign from the institute he himself founded when he criticized the Jewish community in a Washington Post article. To gain more insight into this remarkable man, I invite you to watch our full interview on Muslim Network TV, linked here. Here are some highlights of my conversation with him. When I asked about his personal thoughts about his grandfather, Mohandas Gandhi, his responses were profound.
He was a very loving grandfather, and he was very approachable. He was very simple and humble person. Anybody could approach him at any time and talk to him or get his advice. And I remember many lessons that he taught me during that time.
When I asked him about the lessons he learned from his grandfather, his focus primarily was managing anger.
The first lesson that he taught me was about anger. He said anger is like electricity. It's just as useful and just as powerful, but only if we use it intelligently. But it can be just as deadly and destructive if we abuse it. So just as we channel electrical energy and bring it into our lives and use it for the good of humanity, we must learn to channel anger in the same way so that we can use that energy for the good of humanity rather than abuse it and cause death and destruction.
When discussing the assassination of his grandfather, he shared some unexpected views. Godse, Gandhi's assassin, is actually celebrated in India today, led by the BJP RSS regime. Some people even worship him. Dr. Gandhi suggests that the main motive behind his grandfather's murder was his opposition to the caste system.
Yeah, that's what happens when you become a fanatic. And the Hindus were very fanatical, especially the RSS and they've been very clever in having several layers of political activists. So now they call themselves the BJP, which is basically the RSS, but just another name for it. And so they get away with it by saying that, well, we are not connected with the RSS, but the RSS are doing this, and we can't stop them, which is a lie. They all believe in the same philosophy, and it's very sad. And the saddest part of it is that although they have made this out as a assassination because grandfather was very lenient towards Muslims and was giving Muslims what rights they had incurred by the partition, that was not really the case. The real reason why they assassinated him was because he had said that after the independence, he wanted to abolish the caste system. He was going to take steps to abolish the caste system. And 98% of the politicians and the bureaucrats who inherited the government from the British were from the upper two castes, the Brahmins and Kshatriyas. And they didn't want their status to be diluted. And so they felt that a martyred Gandhi is better than a living Gandhi, because he would have made hell for them. And so they just turned their eyes away when these people conspired to kill him. So that is the real story behind it. But both the government and the RSS are hiding behind the Muslim issue. Basically, it was the caste system, because almost the entire RSS and BJP is made up of the high caste people. And they just didn't want their position to be diluted or lessened. And of course, the Brahmins generally supported the idea because their control over religion was strong, and they just wanted to keep it that way. But if the whole situation was changed, then they wouldn't have that same control over religion. Well, we have to live with hope, otherwise life would become intolerable. So we always hope that something good will come out of things, and I'm hoping that something good will come out, and people in India will understand and realize that this kind of fragmentation that is taking place at the moment is not what civilization is about. Civilization is about becoming one.
He became somewhat philosophical when I asked him if there is hope for India in this BJP RSS-led country.
Before we end today's news, may I make a special request? It takes 55 hours of work daily to produce this news for you. It is news with a unique perspective, and you will find it only here. Sound Vision is a not-for-profit organization which produces it. And just like PBS and NPR, it depends on your donations. Please visit muslimnetwork.tv to donate now, or click the link below to donate. That's all from our Toronto studios tonight. Thank you for tuning in. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell icon for the latest updates. For more content, keep watching Muslim Network TV or visit muslimnetwork.tv. Assalamu alaikum and good night.